Let's bring in another correspondent, CBS News Congressional correspondent Nikole Killion. Technical issues today, but we're going to get through it. A very, very important news day for us. Nikole, what is the latest reaction from Capitol Hill on the Supreme Court's decision?
Yeah, well, I want to read this statement that we just got in from New York Congressman Greg Meeks, a Democrat, the ranking member on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, because he was actually the one that forced a vote just before Congress recessed in the House to express disapproval to the president's tariffs against Canada. So there was a resolution that he forced a vote on that was ultimately successful with bipartisan support. He notes in his statement today that the Supreme Court's decision confirms what we argued in the bipartisan amicus brief that I co-led on behalf of members of Congress. He goes on to say that he will continue to review the Supreme Court ruling to assess future legislative steps, but he does note, as last week's vote on the Canada tariffs showed, most Republicans have overwhelmingly chosen to stand by Trump's tariffs at their constituents' expense. So, there was provision, kind of a rule that was tucked into previous legislation that GOP leadership had pushed forth that essentially barred members from bringing any type of legislation to the floor opposing the president's tariffs. And that changed with that vote just last week that Congressman Meeks and other lawmakers forced on the House floor. So it was a significant defeat for House Speaker Mike Johnson, just the fact that they were able to trump that rule, but then secondly, to move forward with this vote expressing disapproval of the president's tariffs against Canada. So there was a big question about its fate in the Senate, whether or not it would move forward. But we have heard by and large from a number of congressional Democrats in particular after this ruling, really expressing relief and believing that this is a win on the part of the argument that many of them have tried to make. Although I would argue, there have been a number of congressional Republicans, not just those who supported this resolution with Congressman Meeks last week, but just overall who have expressed some concern about how the president imposed the tariffs. And so therefore, it was a very fine line many of them had to walk, because some of them certainly acknowledged that they were hearing from their constituents or that they were concerned about the impact that this was having, especially those representing, for instance, a lot of rural districts or rural states. Certainly we know this hit farmers pretty hard, as well as small businesses. That certainly was a point that Elizabeth Warren made in her statement this morning reacting to this ruling, just noting that, yes, it's a victory that we got this ruling, but at the same time, the damage has already been done to some of these small businesses, and it's important to make them right, make them whole, potentially with refunds, which I know you guys have discussed that issue previously in this hour. So again, a lot of relief certainly on the part of many Democrats who see this as a win. We have heard from a few congressional Republicans, Bernie Moreno, most notably the senator from Ohio, who was quite critical of this ruling, but we will continue to monitor to see what other reaction we get, particularly from congressional Republicans, especially Republican leaders on Capitol Hill. There's Moreno's statement right now, calling it an outrageous ruling that handcuffs our fight against unfair trade, as he states there. So far, one of the few reactions we're seeing from Republicans in the wake of this ruling will go.
It's funny you talk about that reaction that we saw there, because what I was going to ask you, and I know you can't read the minds of lawmakers, but is there any indication that this could lead to more of those Congress members, Republican Congress members, speaking out against the president when it comes to the tariff issue?
Well, I'm sure we will continue to see reaction throughout the day specifically to this ruling. But as I stated, there has been quite a robust debate on Capitol Hill, and we have seen lawmakers make many attempts and try to win bipartisan support for various resolutions against the president's tariffs, whether that's tariffs against Canada or Mexico, or more broadly speaking, in terms of, the broader tariffs overall globally. So that is something certainly that we have seen time and again, but usually they're kind of in the form of these symbolic resolutions that don't necessarily have any
Much
teeth
power?
other than to say we don't agree with what the president is doing here. So certainly that is why I think you're seeing a lot of Democrats in particular come out really celebrating this ruling, because obviously this ruling does have much more teeth than a congressional resolution does, and reaffirms the position that they have been trying to articulate with some of these resolutions, that ultimately this power of tariffs rests with Congress.
Okay, Nikole Killion, thank you so much. We appreciate it.